this is what your nose looks like. Yes, it broke the nose off and nosed into the ground from about 20 feet up because of human error. So I'm going to straighten out this crush point here, and there's another crush point back here, and then on this side there's also a few crush points. This side's not as bad. Right here it's got a crush point. But to straighten it out, you need to boil some water. Well, this isn't really boiling water. It is 180 degrees right now. Just to the point where steam is coming off of it. So I put this in there. Don't touch the bottom because that's where the heating element is there. That's where the flame or the heating element is. I keep this in for 60 seconds. That's about 60 seconds there. Shake off the water. You can see the foam expanded a little bit. It's a little bumpy like lizard skin. And that means that it's at the right temperature. And the collapsed areas are, the crushed areas like right here are coming back. It just takes time. Go anywhere from 45 seconds to 60 seconds. 60 seconds may be a little too much for this. That's about 45 seconds there. And the wrinkles came out a little bit. It didn't expand as much. Maybe the hot glue will come straight off. Well, one good thing about boiling it, your hot glue comes off easy. Once you have your foam expanded, if you crashed it and you got dirt embedded in your foam, you can take a nail brush or a dish brush and go over it with water and gently scrub as much dirt out as you can. The Gorilla Glue didn't really hold very well on this foam because it's shiny and very, very slick, and the Gorilla Glue just kind of peels off. And the first time it nosed into the ground, this split open, and the only thing keeping it from splitting open completely was a rubber band around the front of it. When this nosed into the ground, this tail broke in half. So I took a piece of wire, heated it up with a hot air gun, and drove it into the foam on both ways, and then put epoxy on a barbecue skewer and drove the barbecue skewer through both sides, and then slid these two pieces together and hot glued it together. I used a straight edge and these little hand clamps from Harbor Freight. I took my Dremel with a router attachment on it and made a little trough in there, and then I epoxied a bamboo skewer in there. Then I cut 2 pieces of bamboo skewer and epoxied it on top of that, and cut open a sandwich baggie. This is just, or saran wrap, and I put the angle iron on there and then clamped it on there with these to keep it straight and until the epoxy set. If I nosedived a balsa wood model into the ground, it would be just unrepairable, but the Bixler is very, very resilient. And the only thing that broke was the tail, the nose, a screw holder for the wing. This whole thing right here popped off. So I heated up this metal rod with a hot air gun, drove it into the foam as straight and deep as I could. Then I took 2 barbecue skewers, which are very, very flexible, very strong. You can bend these, and way cheaper than carbon fiber. I don't know how strong they are compared to carbon fiber, but they do bend. They're very flexible. I mixed up some epoxy on a piece of paper, and then I just rolled the barbecue skewer in epoxy and then drove it into the wing. I took a pair of cutters and just snipped the end of what was left of the barbecue skewer, and these are epoxied in there. This here is hot glued back on there, and I'll clean this up later.
But one thing that I did not do when I was setting up my Bixler the first time was install the flaps. I cannot emphasize enough to install the flaps the first time you get your Bixler 2. I think if I would have had flaps on my Bixler 2 when I maidened it, it would have been like day and night. Just having the extra lift would have made it a so much more pleasant experience than throwing it at 5 feet right into the ground. I mean, I had full up elevator and about half throttle. I don't know if it was too much throttle or not enough throttle or not enough throw on my elevator. Okay, to repair the foam, you may need to actually break it a little bit, spread it open like this. Keep your gun about an inch away and drip the hot glue into the crack and let it flow down in there. It'll stay hot for several minutes, but don't get the tip of the gun down in there. Even drizzling it in there an inch above it, it will melt a little bit it will melt some of the foam or make the foam swell a little bit. Then you can push it down, take an extra piece of foam or cardboard or whatever you have and squeegee the extra out of it. And it helps to lay it down flat on a flat surface and make sure everything is level. Okay, I got my two halves pretty much repaired as best I can, but there's still a warp in it. You can see here that it doesn't really line up. So what I'm going to do is wrap some rubber bands around this and let it sit overnight. Got these big thick rubber bands used for wings. So I've let these two halves sit together overnight with rubber bands wrapped around them. You see it pretty much straightened out. I'll strengthen these with bamboo skewers and then some hot glue in there. And we'll glue these back on there. So I took a barbecue skewer and cut it into 2-inch lengths and then marked it halfway and heated up this wire with a heat gun and drove it in through the foam. And I hot glued these barbecue skewers in place. So I glued the fuselage back on there. It's not perfect, but it's close enough. To reinforce it, I'm just going to take little sections of barbecue skewer and drive them in at an angle. Put a little bit of hot glue on there. Get some on the end. And drive it in there. Use the flat end of another barbecue skewer to drive it in. I've already pre-punched these holes with a longer barbecue skewer so that they go in easy. Try to get it in there before the glue dries. Fill in a little hole. Check the inside. You should see right here that it's not going completely through the foam. I took my Dremel and routed a 5-inch line into the foam and then countersunk a 5-inch bamboo skewer in there and glued it in there with hot glue. Okay, I've got 4 or 5-inch skewers embedded into the foam. Took some wax paper and a covering iron and went over it and smoothed it out the best I could. I got off the extra glue. I hot glued the tail on and then drove barbecue skewers down through there. Same thing with the rudder.